In this video tutorial, we're going to be focusing on how we can insert scenes into our Flash animation. So the idea will be that we'll have 4 or 5 scenes, or probably less or more, that allows you to navigate between different backgrounds or different projects that you've got running within your Flash animation, just to make managing frame by frame a little bit easier, to create the motion tweens as they move across the screen a little bit easier. So there's not too many things to learn here, but the first thing we do is to begin by going to ActionScript 3. You can change the size of the paper. So we'll just go to 1440 by 900, which is a nice good size. Fit it in the window. Now we have our first screen. We see across the bottom here, we're going to rename our layer. So let's give it the name Ball to begin with. I want you to come out to frame 100. What I want you to do is to right click on this frame and go insert keyframe. So we right click, insert keyframe, and that creates this grey line that we see coming across the screen. Moving back across to frame 100, so we're going to click over here on the left, click on frame 1, and just draw something simple like a rectangle. Just draw it across the screen. Doesn't really matter on the specifics for the time being. What we're going to do is from frame 1 to frame 100 is we're going to have this move across the screen here in just a nice straight line. So I always like to go to frame 99, click on the mouse. I always like to click on that. You don't have to, you could just right click on this grey line, but I just prefer that if I've got this black mouse selected, I tend to run into less issues where I might accidentally draw another rectangle where I didn't intend to. So you could either right click here, go convert symbol. If you do this here, you right click on this grey line and go create motion tween. It will pop up and tell you, hey, what you're trying to do, I can't until you've converted this to a symbol. So we go OK. Now what it doesn't do is it doesn't give you the option to name the symbol. It's just called it symbol 1 or something like that across the screen. If you were to right click here and go convert to symbol, it will actually pop up with a screen that allows you to convert the name. To do this way, go to library and convert that to square. Now keeping in mind that when you're working on your assessment project, we'll be looking to see that you've named your layers and that you've named your symbols. So if you give us a project where it just says symbol 1, symbol 2, symbol 3, or layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, with no naming conventions started, you will actually get less marks in your project. So pay particular attention to these areas. Once you've done that, just click out. We've got our square created. Move to that frame, and we'll just drag it straight across the screen. And why not click in the middle? Give it a bit of a curve. Just a bit of fun. Let's play that. To preview that, we can go Control Enter, and we see our rectangle just moves in a nice smooth arc across the screen. That's our first scene. Now of course you can create a background like you've been practicing on your fish tank, which will make this project a little bit easier. I'm just going to work on the one layer and the one symbol. What we're going to do is go insert symbol. Sorry, it's not insert symbol, we'll do that in a moment. Insert scene, and you suddenly see at the top here it says scene 2. What we're going to do is exactly the same thing, and we know our rectangle is finished somewhere over here, and what we're going to do is go to frame 100, go insert a keyframe, and we already have our rectangle drawn. So we use our library, we just click and drag it across. Puts it in roughly the same position. Now one of the things with scenes is that you'll find that the rectangle may not be in the exact location you want, and there are ways to copy the layer and move it across. For the time being, we're just going to focus on creating scenes, bringing the symbols and letting them move between it. So we're going to come over here, we know it's scene 2, we're going to call this ball going down, make it a little bit more descriptive. We don't need to rename, sorry, not ball, I should say that's a square or a rectangle. I know I've called it square, but it is actually a rectangle. What we're going to then do is make sure our black mouse is selected, go on to frame 99. Now what you will have noticed is when I've actually moved back here, I've made a mistake, something that you'll more than likely make. When I must have brought across my symbol, I would have been selected on frame 100, not frame 1. So just be mindful that that could cause an issue. I'm going to leave that there, I might come back to it in a second. Let's just go back to frame 1, bring our square actually, I'm just going to rename that because that is incorrect. Let's call that rectangle. And just to show you how you navigate back, if you come up the top here, you can actually go between the scenes that you've got. So we've got scene 2, scene 1. You've got different scenes on your timeline that you can go between. All I usually do is go Window, Scene, or Shift F2 for the shortcut. We have scene 1, scene 2. You'll also need to make sure that these have been renamed. You can do that by just double clicking on them and go Intro, and we'll call this one Going Down. Keep it fairly simple. We've renamed that. So that allows us to go between it. So I know I've called that ball. Not too many square balls around. So just make sure you are paying attention to what you're doing. So we're going to make sure this is called rectangle moving, which is a bit more descriptive. And let's go back to our second scene. We can leave that sitting on the side, that won't cause any harm. So now let's try this again. Right click, create a motion tween, and let's just move it down. Sorry, I must have missed a step there. Make sure you've moved to the ends. It's got to go back. That's actually going to move up. That actually might do. Just remember when you've actually done that, when I created the motion tween and moved the object, I was still selected on frame 1. Make sure that you've actually moved to frame 99 or close to the end. If we preview that, that's going to show us scene 1 and then scene 2. So the rectangle moves across the screen in the arc, and then it's going to come from the bottom up the top. And we've got our first 2 scenes created. And of course, if you find you did a mistake, you can reorder. You can move across to scenes on the right here, click and drag, play it, and you notice that it's now moved in the other direction, and then that will come back across. So you can reorder the scenes that you're working with, so you're not stuck in doing that. There is the option to duplicate it. So let's say that you said, oh, I've got my rectangle exactly perfect. You can duplicate that. And what you've now got is you've got 2 scenes. Obviously we're at different points in the frame. But if you said to me, oh, I'm at this point here, I want that rectangle to start there, that's fine, you could do that. This allows you to duplicate the background and move characters around and do different things. So I'll ideally have a background section or a background folder that locks that in so that when you do duplicate that section, you can then go and delete all the movements. To delete, just click on the Delete Scene tab. That will delete it out of the screen. So we've now got a couple of things that I've shown you. I've shown you one, how to draw a rectangle, how to move it across the screen, how to rename the layer, how to get into the scene area, which is Shift F2, how to rename, a reminder on naming the layers that we've got here as well, and duplicating any additional scenes by just going down the bottom here, duplicate. You can also add a scene from here, and you can delete a scene. So if you find that you've got something you don't want, this is the area that you need to actually go to actually delete. If you ever get stuck, remember to go to help, and you can lock different aspects, lock it in place if you want to do that so it doesn't move around. And this should get you started on a number of things. So making sure that your project does include multiple scenes, making sure that it's named and layered, and that your symbols are named.